Welcome to another Fenestration Canada podcast.
This podcast is a presentation of Underwriters Laboratories, UL, Inspiring Trust. You are listening to Fenestration in Canada with Pat Flannery and Stefan LaBelle.
Okay, Pat, we're live.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Fenestration in Canada. It's Pat Flannery here from Fenestration Review Magazine, as always. With me on the line is Stefan LaBelle from Fenestration Canada. Hi, Stefan.
Hey, Pat.
We have a very special guest today, but before I get to him, I want to welcome everybody who might be watching on the live stream on YouTube. That's a new thing we're trying here. Also, thanks very much to our sponsors, Quanix and UL Canada. Very grateful for their support as always. If you have questions, do use your Q&A panel down below. If you would like to actually join the discussion and get in on the conference to ask your question, you can hit the little hand button, and Stefan will make an executive decision as to whether or not he thinks you should be allowed into the conference.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's a tough process. So conduct yourselves accordingly. Our very special guest today is Kevin Pelley from Kohltech, and I have to get this right, Kohltech Windows and Entrance Systems. Not just doors. It's Kohltech Windows and Entrance Systems.
That is correct.
Yes, out in beautiful Nova Scotia. Kevin, as I think everybody knows, is a figure of some prominence and dignity in the window and door industry in Canada. He's a CP Lowen Award winner, former president of Fenestration Canada. Well, the list of honorifics just goes on and on. Kevin, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
It's really good. It's really good to see you, Kevin. We're always have fun to get together and have a chat, and I think we've got lots to talk about. We're going down there. I mean, the COVID thing continues to evolve. There's a lot of the discussions about how do you react and how do you do this and that are becoming a little bit moot. It's transitioning into, what do you do now and how are you going to respond? I think to the recovery from it. I guess let's start in the obvious place, Kevin. You guys, I know, went right out there and developed sort of a new product on the fly to deal with all this, the Kohltech transitioning into, I want to get into that because I think there's probably some instruction there for people about flexibility in manufacturing and flexibility in how to react to almost anything, right? Any unexpected circumstance. Tell us a little bit about how you came up with the barrier and what that was like.
Sure. So before we get started, I want to congratulate Fenestration Canada on a very well done AGM. I've sat in a few through a few of the associations and boards I'm involved with, and that was well done. I think it was informative. I think it was fun, and I think it just overall was well done. I got to talk about these podcasts. These podcasts, I tell you, are excellent. I get to sit in about a third of them, but the other 2/3, I listen to them on my drive to and from the plant or whatever, and I just find they're great technical content. They're light. They're good listening. Patrick, Stefan, and Al Galius, and the special guests, just well done. Keep it up. I've been pushing it to our people because there's some really good information and some good resources out there. In the industry. So I'm going to start off by, this is a national association, and we have a very important event coming up in a couple weeks. It's the NHL playoffs, and pre-COVID, my Montreal Canadiens didn't look very good to make the playoffs, but hey, by the luck of COVID, we're into the playoffs. So the other reason I'm wearing a hat is because before COVID, I had a full head of hair. And unfortunately, all those stressful nights of COVID put a dent.
Honesty.
Yeah, wasn't
I got
a
to
full
fact
head.
check. I got to fact check that. That's the fake news.
Yeah. So your question, how do we get into the barriers, was started when COVID first hit, and our business level, the signs of it dropped off. The quoting level dropped off significantly, and it was a big cause for concern. We weren't sure what was going to happen to the manufacturing industry. Weren't sure what was going to happen to the housing industry. So we kind of looked, at what we could do to be a part of some of the products that were out there being supplied, PPE and that type of thing. In fact, I went through my old little black book here that I keep my notes in, and I mocked up a face shield here because at the time face shields were going to be popular. So I reached out to Vince McCormick, my R&D manager, and within a day he had mocked up this face shield. But then we realized every part was going to have to come from outside, and we were going to have to process it. So the sales team had mentioned they'd been out to visit a few retail operations, and people had some very temporary, some very rudimentary shields up to if you couldn't social distance, the rule was you had to have a shield up, and they came back and said maybe we could look at getting into these shields. So once again, I picked up the phone. I got a hold of Vince. I said, Vince, what do you think we could do with these shields? Coincidentally, we had a customer of ours down in Yarmouth that has a building supply store and was trying to get open, but he needed to have some sort of protection. So that was on a Monday, and by Wednesday we had a mock-up down to him of a shield. And basically, what Vince does very well, is he took the raw material that we have, finished profile and odds and sods and simple glass, and came up with a shield, and used some of our steel that we use in house and had some brackets here and came up with a shield for this customer. So as the thing started to evolve, we wanted to make sure that we didn't complicate our life. So we wanted to use products, raw materials that we had in house here. So tempered glass, we stock tempered glass for door lights, we stock it for patio doors. So immediately that was the size that was going to be our shield. We didn't have to go buy tempered glass or look at plexiglass. And plexiglass at the time was under some supply chain challenges because everybody was running out to buy plexiglass. So the tempered glass was another safety glass that worked out well. So we wanted to use profile from in-house. Vince came up with a special glazing stop that we could use. It was from another system. It was able to single glaze tempered glass and put it into a small frame, and then we put legs on it. So I will show you just for my. That's the first version we come up with. So it was it's just a casement sash, piece of tempered glass, some steel legs on it, painted white, and that was our first version. So that worked out well. But then as we started getting feedback from some customers, it worked very well in the building supply store or an industrial operation or industrial retail. But I have a couple of friends that own some retail businesses and restaurants in Halifax and area. So I put on my hat and I went down and I visited them and I said, what do you think about this white shield? And they were like, nah, I don't think that's going to work. That's pretty ugly. I said, okay. And I didn't want to tell Vince that because this is his baby. So I get back to Vince and I said, we got to come up with something a little sleeker and ideally not white, black. Something that suits a restaurant, something that suits a retail operation. So within probably another 3 or 4 days, he came back with this new version, which is black, slimline, again, using the same size tempered glass, and we painted the legs. And since that, we've evolved into standard sizes. The legs, now we work with a local company to outsource those legs because they were the toughest thing that we were running into. It was not what we normally did on the production line. So the other goal was we wanted to sort of make this as seamless as possible for production. So, and as we now see it, business has started to come back to normal. So now we have a situation where our business is normalized and it's, in fact, it's getting busy. And now we also have to build these shields. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't costing ourselves regular windows in for the shield. So we set up a fairly simple, basically a sash glazing line, and outsourced the leg. So it's somewhat seamless now. I won't say it was seamless through the whole transition, but it was I pulled together a small group, and it was just basically let's get it done, let's get it done, let's get it done. We haven't got months like we normally do to develop a product. We've got days, if not weeks. So yeah, so that's how the thing started up, and so far it's been it's catching on. One of the challenges we see is that the normal market for this is not our typical market. Typically we sell to building supply dealers, and then they sell to consumers, but the market for this product is restaurant associations, it's office supply areas. So it was a bit of a different channel for us, and we're still tapping into that. And but so far so good. So
yeah, it probably did. You find that it created some energy though? Like I mean there must have been some excitement in the shop to have to react so fast to come up with something.
Well, Vince and Darren Rogers, who works for us here, and Wade Weatherby and others that were involved in the team. It was kind of like the good old days when we were a smaller business, and we just sat down, kicked around ideas, sketched it out, and then did something on the production floor. And so amidst this whole COVID thing, we had a little bit of fun at it. We kind of adopted the sort of Star Trek shields up.
Oh yeah, let's see that.
So, shields up. So I came in my office one day, and to this whole thing, and we're saying shields are up. We'd have a meeting, and we'd go through all the items we wanted to, what are we missing for inventory? What do we need for this? What's the status on the legs? And at the end of it, we'd say shields up. So I came in my office one day, and this was posted on my on my wall. So it's yeah. So and then I went out and got a lunch can. So So
yeah.
So everyone's kind of adopted different names, and not that everyone liked it, but so we had some fun at it, and it was like I said, the good old days. We had some fun at it, some new energy of turning a product around real quick, and then working some of the bugs out later. So which
was kind of the good, and then we got Kevin Pelley out on the road in his car, going door to door to restaurants. I mean,
Patrick,
talk about the good old days.
It reminded me of my one of my first jobs in high school. I was out selling encyclopedias, and for those younger people that maybe are on the podcast today, not everything was on Google back then. You literally had encyclopedias, and I remember going out door to door, knocking on people's doors, and getting a bit of a thick skin, and so just to grab one of these shields, go down and sit in front of a restaurant owner, and understanding that they were closed and now they've been given the green light to open. They had no idea what they needed. They were trying to sort through the 15 or 16 pages of guidelines, and we modified this thing probably every day for 2 weeks. Originally, we had a bolt down version.
Okay.
And then when we started meeting with customers, they were saying, we don't want to bolt it down because, hey, I got a marble counter. I got Italian marble tile. I don't want to ruin that. Okay. I came back, Vince, we need feet. Right. So so it was probably a daily thing that we were making tweaks, modifications to it. And then after about 2.5 weeks of this, I said, guys, we got to stop. There's lots of great ideas coming out, but we're going to drive ourselves nuts. And then business was starting to get back to normal. And so it was, but it was a lot of fun. I got to say, I really enjoyed the whole exercise, and we're still having fun at it. So.
Were you able to do the black sash mostly with stuff you had in house, or did you have to make something new for that?
No, that's basically a single hung black sash, and just a different glazing stop to accommodate a single piece of glass as opposed to an IG unit. And I don't know if you can see the legs there, but the legs are something that we now have fabricated off site. They're adjustable, which is something else we came back. People are saying, well, I'm not sure how high I need this. Do I want to slide a beer underneath it? Do I want to slide a coffee, or do I want it right down? So they're adjustable. So we tweaked the thing over, I guess, say 2.5 weeks, and we just decided that we gotta hunker down, lock this thing down, and get it out to our customers. And then we had to put it in our computer system and get our people up to speed. So that's where all the work really began. Once you decide to offer something, is to get it into your systems, right? So
yeah, right. Assembling the feet on there in-house, or is that being done by your fabricator?
So one of the things I like about this and was really cool was Vince and Wade, two key members of our team, sat down with a local fabricator and said, what can we do to make this simple for us to do, but simple for you to produce? So they came up with this piece of metal plate that actually has a tab on it, so that they fold the tab up and then they just bolt the channel to it and you're off to the races. So it was a pretty cool idea, because before that we had welded feet, bolted feet, and now we have this one simple tab that bends up. You bolt your brace on the side and you can adjust it up and down. So
that's awesome. Yeah,
that was pretty cool to how they made that simple.
Yeah, that they like to do that. They like to do that a lot in automotive. That's a little trick, I think, from there.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool.
Well, the
fun of it, right?
You gotta go to your fabricator on these things because I mean, if you're having components like that done, because they'll have ideas how to make your process easier, as well as good for the customer. I mean, they'll have ways to make your life easier sometimes.
Well, they're metal, so they can powder coat them right there, and they'll paint them, which is a bit of a cumbersome to run those through our paint shop. So so it worked out well.
Can you give me a guess on how many of these things you've put out?
We're probably closing in on 600 or 700. And it's kind of starting to, they're starting to come in droves now as more retail operations start to open. Initially, it was people just wanted them for their front cash.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the very first one of the Slimline that we sold, one of our HR coordinator, her husband and her own a restaurant in town, and they were looking to get open because they got the green light to go open, and they had actually not even thinking about the plant ordered a shield, and it never showed up. So we whipped them up one pretty quick. But so now we're starting to see people that are opening up bowling alleys, office spaces, and they want to put these barriers in between different parts of their business. So the inquiries are starting to ramp up a bit more. So.
You think they'll leave them up after there's no more virus?
Patrick, it's an interesting question, because what I'm hearing and talking to people, customers, people I know in the business, is that when this whole COVID thing first hit, they put up temporary measures.
Yeah.
Now they're saying, you know what, this is going to be around for a while. I want something more permanent. And even some of the white ones we sold originally just to get people open came back and said, you know what, I'd rather have the black ones. Now that I know what I want, where I want to put them, let's go with a permanent solution. So I think you'll see them stay around for a long time. I think it's going to be like handshaking. Are we going to handshake?
Are we going to get back to that? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I still, every once in a while, I get, that muscle memory kicks in. You want to go shake someone's hand and you stop and flag or something, So, and so I think there's just a paradigm shift here that we're seeing in the way people react, and these type of barriers are going to be, become more and more common. So
it's amazing. It's amazing how fast the conditioning sets in, because I find myself flinching when I see people on TV going in for hugs. I mean, my wife and I just got finished watching The Sopranos. These guys are hugging and kissing each other every 5 seconds. And it is. And I've got to go, careful.
And I still, to this day, I mean, it's, I coached football for years, and what you want to coach in football is teach the muscle memory, so that you repeat. And so for years we've been conditioned to shake our hand or hug people and that type of thing. And now you're kind of trying to change that. So it takes 6 months at least to change that behavior.
You guys have gotten into, it'll be interesting to see if how much of this hangs around and how much of it goes on. I mean, I was listening to, the TV this morning was saying that, it looks like people who didn't get very sick don't have very high antibody levels. So now we don't even know if they're immune anymore. Who knows how long this is going to roll on? Who knows how long of a consideration this is going to be? I think Kevin's frozen there. Can everyone still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I think Kevin's frozen.
I think Kevin froze on us. This is not good.
This is not good. We'll have him come back.
Well, what's going on with Fenestration Canada, Stefan?
Well, as for those who are on YouTube right now, here we go. So
he's coming back.
No, we lost him, and now we see twice your image. So give me 1 second with that. So, but yeah. So if we're for those who are on YouTube, they can see that we're coming up with a press conference by the end of July. So we're gonna announce something exciting there. So for people who are interested in FenCan and what we do, it's something that might be interesting to follow. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to bring back the.
Yeah, Stefan's having to do 10
logistics.
Things at once
Here you go.
Yeah, I know.
I'll figure it out.
That's why they pay him the big bucks over at Fenestration Canada there, because he can do these kinds of things. If you tried to get me to fix your Zoom conference while I still had to talk at the same time, this thing would go off the rails pretty damn fast. We should get somebody in it. Eddie, why don't you put up your hand and we'll let you into the conference so we can talk to you. Get Eddie Cho. Let's get another guest here. We'll get Eddie Cho in here. We can get Jason Waddell in here. Any of these guys, and just have a little chat. We had an interesting conversation a little while ago about Windor. There's a pretty neat thing going on there where Fenestration Canada is going to do an online version of it, Windor Marketplace.
Yeah.
I think everybody should rush over and check it. You've got a website up for that, Stefan?
Well, not yet. So it's going to be within the Windor website. So what we're doing right now is we're discussing with exhibitors who were part of Windor, the face-to-face regular Windor. We want to give them the priority for the booths and the sponsorship opportunities. So we're almost done with all these calls now. So in fact, the early bird for them was over yesterday, I think. But we're for people. If you
call right now, if you call right now,
yeah, kind of. But yeah, but usually when we have discussions already, we're a little more lenient on the date. But so early bird was over yesterday. We have a really good turnout already. We don't want to brag or anything, but we're really happy with what's happening right now, including on the sponsorship side, because I feel like people have a little bit more money to invest in sponsorship opportunities since they're not traveling, they're not furnishing a booth and all of that. So right now the struggle is to make sure that every sponsor gets visibility where they want it and all of that. So I think we have Kevin back.
Kevin is back. All right.
What the heck happened there?
You froze up, my man. You locked up just like There was Windows 95 all over again.
Right? I have to update my system.
You have to update your system.
Yeah. Oh, well.
It's that incredible East Coast Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Well, I can't say any better because we get it here. I'll tell you.
Yeah, that was weird.
No, it's that stuff that happens.
Well, I think that we jinxed it with our live stream on YouTube. We decided we've been doing that for months without any problems, so let's live.
Yeah, so let's try it, and of course that's when you have a problem.
Well,
I tried to get like Eddie Cho and Jason Waddell to jump in here and fill your spot, Kevin, and they chickened out. They wouldn't do it. So what are you gonna do? There we go. Oh yeah. Eddie's doing a victory lap on the chat that he doesn't have to get in. Yeah, so that's fine. That's fine. Well, your day in the barrel will come, Eddie. I believe me. So. Listen, Kevin, we were talking about, tell me a little bit, we had an interesting conversation before we got on here about what you're seeing in the market. What's going on in your regular window and door market? Yes. Because of COVID, you're seeing some shifts, some actual deviation from what you'd been observing trend-wise prior to that. Get into that for me.
So first when COVID first hit, of course, most, if not all, renovation business came to a halt. Right? Nobody wanted people to come in their homes and do renovations. Homes were still constructed, mostly across the country. Ontario was kind of shut down, but and then the commercial buildings continued to sort of move along. Everything slowed down a bit on that just because of the COVID thing, but then business started coming back. And some of the things that I'm seeing now, which are a shift, which I relate to COVID, is that if you think back pre-COVID, there was a big shift for people to move from their home, empty nesters, sell their home, maybe move into a multi-use building where they have all the services and in more of an urban center. And now I'm seeing a shift the other way. People are moving out of these places and buying a house or moving down to their nice cottage, and fixing it up because they don't want to be in a congested area. And I'm seeing people that are moving from Toronto, and listen, Toronto's a great city, but it's congested. And they want to move away from that congestion down here to the East Coast to have a little bit of green space and have a house and have some land. And so I think you're seeing that reverse of what we saw a little bit happening. The other thing that we're seeing is that people through this whole pandemic are not taking vacations. They're not going on trips. They might have had trips canceled. So they're spending money on things that are going to dress up their house. So it could be their deck, could be trying to put a pool in. Here in Nova Scotia, you can't get a pool installed this year. It's next year at the earliest. They're spending money on other parts of their house. There's been a bit of a boom on house renovations and even additions and that type of thing. I'm seeing a lot of front doors. Our front door business is really gone strong. I talked to other friends of ours and the Fenestration Co-op, other fabricators from across the country, and they're seeing the same trend. And what we're surmising is that people have some extra money. They want to dress up their house. They're planning to stay there, or they just bought a house. They want to fix it up. And the front door is an easy way to get a nice visual impact by dressing up your front door. So yeah, I think we're seeing a shift there in terms of demographics, and I think that's probably going to be here for a while. I'm just not sure how anxious people are to get back on a plane or get on a cruise ship, and maybe they're going to spend that money on their home. And again, this shift from multi-use maybe back to single use might be a bit of a phenomenon we're going to see.
With being able to work from anywhere now, it opens a lot of possibility, like for those who can, like because of COVID, you were forced to work from home. So companies were forced to establish systems and, like security and all. They set up their servers. So for the small company who never did that before and had to do it, now the system is there. So I feel like they're going to take advantage of that and maybe hire people, the person you need, even if they live, hundreds of kilometers from where your shop is. Now you can hire this person because you have access to them. So I feel like this might play a role too, right? Yeah.
We're seeing some challenges on the supply chain side when this, back in February, early March, before it hit. Carl Ballard, my business partner and the president, came to me and said, what are we going to do? Should we, obviously when COVID hits, you want to protect your cash and you want to, manage your disposable spending. But we made the decision to beef up our inventory in case our supply chain did get affected. As we know, a lot of our supply chain comes from around the world. So, and that made a lot of sense at the time. 3 weeks into COVID, when the bottom fell out, we were like crapping our pants saying we've got all this inventory. And, but as it turned out, with business getting back to normal, that worked out in our favor. But I do believe we're going to have supply chain issues. We've got one supplier in Mexico. The plant there got hit hard with COVID, so that affected their lead times. Other Canadian suppliers, you're seeing their lead times creep up for a couple reasons. Mostly because I think the demand for windows and doors this year has bounced back so quick, and everybody scaled down a bit. Now it's ramped up to almost normal situations. You've got the situation going on in the U.S. where a lot of our supply chain is. It's our largest trading partner. What's going to happen there if they don't get things under control? It may inevitably affect all of us, not just in our business, but in other businesses. So yeah, we're keeping a close eye on the supply chain and making sure that we can, try and keep things running as best we can. So,
Kevin, what's your sense of? I mean, that to me is absolutely the bigger. I've been saying, I've actually been having some fun with some people out at Fenestration Manitoba, because I made some bold predictions about a V-shaped recovery and things actually bouncing back quicker than people might think. And I still think I'm going to be right about that. But the supply chain is the longer term question. Is there an opportunity? I don't know if it's an opportunity, but what is the potential in your business for, let's say the U.S. continues to be a gong show. Let's say we can't do anything with China for a long period, maybe for more than one reason. What is there an opportunity for Canadian suppliers to step in and fulfill your needs?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a question Carl and I were kicking around the other day. Where can we source this material in Canada? So at least we have a little bit more of a confident supply chain. I mean, all of our float glass comes in from the U.S. There's no glass plant in Canada. If these plants, and I probably think some of these plants scaled down anyways for COVID, but also not sure where business is going to be. They're under pressure to ramp up, and if one of these big plants gets hit with COVID and have to shut down, that's certainly going to affect our supply chain. So I think absolutely. I think everybody is looking at buying local, because at least local, and I say local, it could be your local restaurant, could be your local retailer, but local for us is Canada, and having more domestic supply to ensure our supply chain. Listen, I hope we get through this thing, and I hope you're right, Patrick. I hope we have a V-type recovery, and I think we're seeing signs of that. I think the big concern now is that there might be a second wave, and businesses are bracing for that. But we got to carry on, right? I mean, small business in Canada and business in general is the driver of this economy, so we have to carry on. We have to do it carefully. We have to be, we have to be sensitive to the fact that COVID is still here, and we have to be better at social distancing and better at putting barriers up and better at doing our day-to-day operations. But we need business to operate. And but I do think you'll see a shift to through this whole exercise of people looking at local supply chain and
because you can get all your vinyl and your extrusions in Canada. You can get Can you get the hardware originally? It's mostly imported, right? But there's certainly Canadian metal shops that could make hardware.
100%.
The float glass is the killer, because you can't just fire up a float glass plant tomorrow. I mean, that's a significant investment, and there's none left.
No.
So that's really the big, that's the one that you're going to be in trouble with internationally if there aren't enough stockpiles of primary glass. And coated. Well, you can get the coatings done in Canada, but at expense. Yeah, it's so really. If aside from the float glass, notionally everything can come from Canada.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a shift there in our thinking. So maybe there's not a float glass in Canada today, but maybe 2 to 3, 4 years there could be one. If we support it and may understand that we may have to pay a bit of a premium for that. But at the end of the day, if you need to either pay a premium or you have no supply, and that's the challenge we're going to have to look forward to, right? And I think there's probably a great time for Fenestration Canada to support those efforts and really get out there and get the word out that we should be buying local as much as possible. Sometimes it can't be done, I get that, but
like I can speak from that side of it a little bit, because I mean, how nice would it be for an IG manufacturer to be able to deal with a primary glass supplier local, at least in Canada, plant that had Canada as its sort of, I don't want to say designated market, but at least its primary focus. I tend to think as an IG fabricator that would be a nice situation to have, regardless.
We have a tempering glass facility in Prince Edward Island that started. And before that, we were relying on either northern New Brunswick or Quebec or even our main glass supplier. So this is a nice little business. And are they cheap? No, but they're convenient, they're quick, and they're local, and they're there. So there's some there's something
to that.
There's absolutely right
to that.
Yeah,
it's like a lot. I mean, it's like a lot of the companies that played with offshoring their parts or most of their production, and boy, you see a lot of them. You see a lot of them having second thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the cost sometimes made sense and sometimes didn't. It depended a lot on what you were making and what kind of margin you had in the first place. So there's elements of that. I don't know what else on the supply chain issues, Kevin. Do you think that like, for instance, things like machinery and automation on the plant floor? I mean, are we going to be able to get the kind of access and service from these remote places? Is that going to be able to keep going?
Well, I listened to the podcast from, I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And you had Martin.
Yeah. Martin from JSA. Yeah.
I thought he had some very valid points. Companies are going to want to deal with local companies where it might be easier to get the technician there. I think they're bang on with some of the things they're working on, almost like a plug and play piece of equipment. Historically, you would buy a piece of equipment, then you would they would send their tech down for a week or so to get it up and running. And now there's going to be a need for almost plug and play and get it more commissioned at their plant before it arrives at our plant. I think the automation, as we need to move to more, separating the work cells, certainly during this time of social distancing, is very key. Handling equipment. I mean, in the whole lean manufacturing world, they're moving towards having equipment then that can take out the, some of that repetitiveness or that what we would call time wasters in the lean manufacturing world. So I think they're in the right direction. I think there's a company like that's a good company that can satisfy our needs. And
did you guys make some changes in that regard? On your plant floor, did you have to alter 100%. Things?
Oh,
really?
Yeah. We had to. So we had the social distance. We had to relay some of the lines out. We added lunch areas because we had to have people separated. We zoned our plant off into specific zones so that if we did have a case happen, then you could isolate that zone and then deal with that.
Right.
We separated our, people that were it's the same managers. We separated them so that if one became, had to go off work, then the other one wouldn't have to go off as well. So a lot of planning around what are the implications of someone if you get a COVID case showed up here, right? So, and even now, we're fortunate in that we have a pretty locked down facility. But if we have any visitors, we have a fairly strict protocol on when they come into the door on how they're to proceed, right? And we're limiting our visitors. It's we'd love to have salespeople come and see us again, and same with us. We'd love to have our salespeople go out there, but we got to respect that there's still some people that are cautious and want to be cautious, rightfully so. But we're doing our best to protect our plant, protect our employees, and make sure that we keep running. So.
Something else we were going to get into that we should hit. Kevin, you've always been a tremendous supporter of the association. It sounds like you're involved. You're getting involved with some of the regional committee work that Fenestration Canada's been trying to do in the different regions across the country. Tell us a bit about what's going on there.
So as you know, I spent quite a few years on the board, past, present, loved it. But like everything, there comes a time when it's time to move on. It's time to hang up the skates and move on to the next venture. So I sort of backed away from the association, not Fenestration Canada, but the activities for a bit, and stayed involved with a few. And then Stefan approached me, I'm going to say 2 years ago, about this whole regional committee idea, and I thought it was a great idea. We had chatted about this years ago about having, and this was long before where we're at with Fenestration Canada now, and I applaud where we've come as an association. But probably 15 years ago, we talked about maybe we should have our own Atlantic committee to deal specifically with the issues that are here in Atlantic, which are different than Ontario, which are different than the prairies out west in Quebec. So when he talked about having these regional committees, which would be, basically an arm of Fenestration Canada, I thought it was a great idea. So he asked me if I'd co-chair it, and then he asked Greg Dickey if he'd be the other co-chair, and we're competitors, but we were smart enough to realize that, at the end of the day, we need to have a strong association. And I said this in a previous chat that, if we don't have a strong association, we have nobody acting or talking on our behalf, and that's a scary place to be. So having a strong national association, which is where we are now, and then having a nice active local committee where we can get more people involved. So our goals of the Atlantic Committee is to come up with a simplified NAFS document. NAFS is fairly common here in our driving wind and rain climate here. So NAFS is really getting some momentum. So we want to work with our local specifiers, stakeholders, building inspectors to help them adopt the NAFS easier. We want to work on what we're on our part to come up with the installation program, installation guide, in support of the national national goal is to have a window door installation program. So we see that as a key element. We want to engage more stakeholders. We're a fairly small region with not a lot of fabricators, so we can work together and really work together to pull in architects, engineers, specifiers, building officials, and help raise the bar in this industry. And I think we could be a bit of a model for the rest of the country if we could do this right. So, so we really kicked it off this year, had a nice regional meeting, and of course COVID came, and it kind of,
that was that.
Yeah. So, but we've had we've had a couple more discussions. Of course, the meeting was supposed to be PEI this year, and COVID preempted that. So, which was
everyone was looking forward to that too.
Yeah, I just thought that was going to be a hell of a time, around the campfire and the beach and PEI, with, the odd sociable, and just
oh my God,
and the power of these networking events. I mean, when you're sitting around casual, just having a refreshment, chatting is really, you get out of that business mode, you get into kind of a pseudo business mode where you're chatting and talking, and great things come out of that. So. So it's too bad we didn't have that, but so the committee is we're back on track. We have a meeting coming up in
August.
August,
Yeah.
and we're starting to involve a few stakeholders and get more people involved. So I'd like to think that this is a great initiative that can help throughout the country, and that we can really kickstart it here, being that it's a smaller region.
Yeah, and I mean we have the FenCan board, but they need to know what the different regions want, and what's better than to have regional groups who are part of our membership that can tell the board and me, and this is what we need. So whatever the Atlantic Committee is working on then goes to the board, and then we know, okay, this is what we need to do, and then we can assign resources when the board approves the activity or whatever project. Then we can assign the resources, and it's not going to be arbitrary depending on who's on the board, on who's bringing up a project. Now you have a representation everywhere in the country, and that's what we were able to do despite COVID. So we're pretty.
I think the other thing that we'll be able to accomplish is when we go as a unified group and an association versus Kohltech going in and tell them their version, then the other guy go and tell them their version. If we go in as a national association, Atlantic chapter with a unified message, we'd like to think that we'll get a bit more traction that way.
Yeah, for sure. It helps. It's already helping, to be honest. Like because of course we have the Atlantic, and we already tackled and discussed with government officials about specific problems in Atlantic, but we did the same with Ontario. We did the same everywhere in the province. So all of our groups this year were really active, and I felt personally that it brought even more. It was more dynamic within the association. Like there's not a day that passes without, I get emails, we should do this, we should do that. Like I see real difference now. We have way more involvement, way more engagement. And it was a pretty easy thing to do, right? Just say like, do you guys want to meet together and discuss once every couple months, what is it we should do? Yeah, of course. And then we get a ton of projects now. So that's really exciting.
The action in construction, any construction in Canada is always at the provincial level, because frankly it's the way our constitution is written. But on the other hand, it can be difficult for smaller provinces, less population provinces, to muster the volunteer resources and everything to really get an association going or have it do everything it can do. So I think it's a great role for the national group to bring it down and just have some concentration in the regions. Because I mean, Atlantic Canada, absolutely, way more interest in NAFs, interest in hurricane standards. Well, no one in Ontario, in Ontario is building anything to a Florida hurricane specification, right? But you guys probably have to hit that sometimes, right?
Well, we lived through Hurricane Dorian in the last year, and it's becoming an almost a normal event. I hate to say that, but historically we would have hurricanes and crazy weather once, every few years. Now it's we watch hurricanes here. We're like the south coast of Florida. It's we're on hurricane watch. But I think to your point, Patrick, it's a great point. We have a national building code, but it's up to each province to adapt it, change it, modify it, do what they want. And I think having an association like ours that can work with them and be proactive versus being reactive, because historically something comes out and then we have to react to it. We have to backpedal versus being proactive, letting these people know that there's a strong association now. We've got, a full-time executive director. We've got a full-time technical director, good people that are willing to work with them. And we haven't always had that. So I think that's a good structure for a good organization. And I think, if we had tried this Atlantic Committee years ago, I don't think it would work. Now we have some momentum going, and I really think it's the good building blocks that we need.
A good example of that is 2 weeks ago, got a government official, auditor, reach out to me and say, okay, so we've seen that in a couple of letters you sent, you're talking about enforcement, and now there's a problem with enforcement. So whenever we want to change something, you always bring back up, but where's the enforcement? Like, what's the point of, and they reached out to us and they said, okay, what are the enforcement problems? Tell us, because they're the auditors, right? So they're going to go and what is it we could do better? So what we did, and it was, this one was for Ontario specifically. So we reached out to all our Ontario members and we said, okay, now's the time. If you feel you want more enforcement, if that's how you feel, and you feel that, just fill out this survey here, and we'll send it. And today I sent the results to them, so they're gonna do what they want with it. But at least we were really useful to them, and that's what I see happening more and more. I get phone calls and emails from government officials, building officials, city officials, asking me what is it we should do with that. So this is all because of groups like the Atlantic group or all the regional groups, because they're more active in their own region. So they know people, right? So they talk with people there, and then it comes back here. So, yeah. Sounds
good. No, I'm looking forward to it. Bit of a a distraction or a hurdle with this COVID thing, but I think we're going to get back to it and get some good involvement. I think it's just a great next step for Fenestration Canada. So all good.
Yeah, the regulators, no question, are much more interested in listening to association groups than individual companies or ad hoc groups. They're looking for somebody that they can feel confident is speaking for a broad section. That's just the way government has to work. I mean, they can't have it. An individual emailing them means nothing to them.
I mean, if you look at the example, three podcasts ago, you had the person on from the Vinyl Institute.
Yeah, right.
I thought that was and I thought that was an excellent podcast, and us pulling that information together to get that out in front of architects who are speccing another material, and that's up to them. But you don't want them speccing another material based on misinformation.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the type of thing that we can help. At least put the correct information in there. If they still want to choose whatever material they want to choose, that's fine. But let's not do it on misinformation. So I think there's a big role for this committee and Fenestration Canada going ahead, and it's a big task. But I do like the way that we've sort of started to break it down into chunk. I call it chunk size pieces. Right? It's hard to eat that big steak, but if you cut up in little pieces, it goes down
one
a bit
by
easier.
one.
So one by one, big prime rib.
Well, you got Greg Dickey involved, and I think he can eat a whole steak. So
I didn't say that.
No. I don't.
He's not
actually, I've seen him do it. I think
he's a Leafs fan too. So
what?
No,
how did that happen? No way.
I hope he's a Habs fan.
There you go. There it is.
At this point, if I'm not mistaken,
2 weeks NHL playoffs. Go Habs.
If I'm not mistaken, at this point, I think both teams are making the playoffs because of COVID.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. Right. So.
The Leafs. I don't. I don't think they were in.
I don't think they were in.
They were closer than the Habs. I heard. I don't know if this is true or not, but the Leafs may be playing the Habs in the first round.
Just as a warm up game, exhibition.
Okay. Okay. I've heard so many variations of what was going on with the NHL playoffs that. I haven't been. I mean, other than I know what day to start, so I'll be looking forward to it. But.
Well, I'll tell you how desperate I am. I'm watching Blue Jays intra squad games on Rogers. I've watched both of them that they've broadcast so far. It's like, this summer has made no sense to me without baseball. So I just.
Well, it's just sports in general. Nothing. Even said, why am I still paying for TSN and Sportsnet? Like there's nothing to watch on it.
Right? Just so you can have it ready to go the minute that. You don't have to do anything.
I think that's what it is. It's just a feeling, like the feeling that you have it. Like it just feels like there's going to be a game soon.
Yeah. So someday it has to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're completely off track as every single one of these always ends up, which is good.
Perfect.
It's all fun. Kevin, give me your quick. I didn't get from you whether you think it's a V-shaped recovery. Give me your quick prediction.
What I hope, or what I I believe
what you actually predict, what you're actually seeing.
So I think we're seeing a bit of a V-shaped recovery. Once we started to open up retail operations, restaurants, barbershops, dentists, all that stuff, I think people became, out of necessity, had to get out and became more comfortable. And I think part of the challenge is, and it's once you're locked down for months, it's to take that first step outside the door and experiment with going to get some groceries, and if you're that concerned. So I think now that people are getting out, I think you're going to see that the exponential, where we're going to have a bit of a V-shaped recovery. But we just got to be smart about it, right? And maybe in the U.S. they reacted too quick. I don't know.
They did. They blew it.
I think we did a great job here in Canada of controlling it. There's still some areas that are, but not nearly to that extent. And I just think we have to be smart about how we make sure that we do that V-shaped recovery, that we do it as best we can, with barriers or social distancing or whatever the case may be, hand sanitizing, good washing. So So I do see us in a V-shaped recovery, and I hope it stays that way, and I hope that we don't have a second wave, and that we do our best to avoid that. So
I think that now that obviously the awareness is completely different than it was back in 100%. January and February.
Yeah.
If the hope, right, is that if outbreaks occur, like in a second wave type scenario, as things open up, it's going to be able to be contained. It's going to be able to have that regional aspect, kind of like SARS did. That they'll be able to hold it down to areas and trace people, and you can keep it from becoming this overall lockdown thing again. And as long as you do that, I kind of like our fourth quarter. I kind of like what the fourth quarter could be.
I'm still confused, Patrick, why we're not testing more.
Well,
it's still a very reactive thing where someone has to have a symptom or whatever, and then they go and call the hotline, and I've got and the symptoms grow. But I don't know why we're not testing more. We have this issue here in Nova Scotia, and now the Atlantic bubble, where they're very cautious of people coming from outside. I said, well, then everybody gets off a plane, test them. Everybody comes across the border, test them. The cost of testing certainly outweighs the cost of having to put these people in, if it ever gets to that point. But I'm mystified at that. Why we're not?
I agree with you. They're getting off planes at Pearson every day, and no one is getting tested. No. And I don't get it. I assume it's a supply problem. But look, if one thing's come out of all this and the supply chain question and everything, I'm all for international trade. I'm a globalist. I think it needs to happen.
I agree
too. Wow, we have got to have capacity to look after ourselves in this country. I mean, this business of being reliant on things across international borders, clearly, some sort of fallback position has to be there.
Yeah, this is a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think I'm all about free trade, but you have to protect your supply chain, and I think you're going to see a bit of a radical shift, a paradigm shift in our thinking there. It has to be. Right?
Yeah. Buy Canada, everybody. Go buy to the extent you can.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And support your Canadian suppliers like UL Canada, one of our sponsors today. And Quad Access people in Canada. Quad Access people in Canada. They go buy from them too. Yes, that's so with that, Stefan, how are we doing for time? We're pretty much up against the hour, right?
Yeah, we're pretty much there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we made it there. Kevin, we know who you're cheering for in the playoffs. We'll wish you luck. We'll wish you luck.
This could be our year. It's our year.
Yeah.
It's been too long.
Well,
this might be the best chance Montreal's had in a long time.
Well, if they make it, we're having a special podcast, you and I, Kevin, for sure.
Oh, I'm in.
That'll be good. The rest of us will bring the barf bags.
Anyways, guys, it was a great spend some time with you.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's clear beer, coffee.
It's too early for a real sociable, but we'll do sociable. Kevin has left his mark on this association for all time. We can say that for sure. Kevin, thank you very much for Kevin Pelley, Kohltech,
real pleasure.
Kohltech Windows and Entrance Systems. Always a great guest. That's it for Fenestration in Canada this time. Thanks to everybody for joining. I think, are we going to have a recording of this out there somewhere, Stefan?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's always on YouTube right after the show ends.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So anybody who missed, check it out on YouTube. And thanks again to UL and Quanex. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys. Thanks.
This podcast is a presentation of Quanex Building Products. For more than 30 years, Super Spacer Tri-Seal from Quanex Building Products has been the ideal warm edge spacer solution for commercial and architectural glass. With its unique triple seal design, Tri-Seal provides structural strength, durability, and outstanding thermal performance in the most demanding applications. Learn more at quanex.com.